Good times rhymes with war crimes, and we're about to have a few more added to the list here. War Pugs, it's time. It is time. Valk is actually here. Valk is not feeling well. Everybody, F in the chat for Valk because she's not feeling that good. And it's bad. Because I can't make fun of her effectively if she's not feeling good, and that's just not right. It's just not right at all. Yes, Galaxy Wide, I do know that fan uploaded. I do. I'm 22. Eh? Did that happen? Did that actually happen? No, not quite. Let me take a look. Hold on. We'll find out in a second. We will find out in a second. No, not quite, but close. Not quite, but close. All right. 77 off. That ain't bad. That ain't bad at all. Is this because of the rain that she was in the other week? I don't know. I have no idea. First Italian Army mopping up the South German Union in Geneva. Okay. My cat. Now that I have hit the button for streaming, now she's here and she will not stop bothering me. That is the way of things. First off, is Fan here? If Fan is here, nice. If Fan is not here, he'll be here soon. We all know he shows up. I know. Oh, God. So, what all has happened in this last week since we last got together to observe the horror show that quickly became? Quick theory. Tarawala was originally a beta before being exposed to the Forge, was enhanced into Alpha. Plus, thoughts? I don't know about that. They haven't been there long enough. They haven't been there long enough to really experiment with that. I mean, we're in the battle right now. Now there's not much. While we have been here for some time, not that much time has actually gone by canonically, where they would sit there and be able to experiment to understand what was actually happening to this to them and their abilities upon being exposed to this area. Now, a couple of quick things. Number one, the new merch store is up. Warden, stop talking about the Bent Bradley. We actually have, hold on, one second, boom. No, I don't need that, I need this. What am I doing with myself? I don't even know. Boom, there we go. Yes, there we go. Okay, hold on, I'm getting it. There we go. Okay. New Gavin Bob as well. But real quick to plug myself. Just to plug myself because I do that. Boom. Guys, this is what me and Valk have been working on for the past forever. We now have the Good Times versus War Crime shirts out. This was done by one of Valk's students, actually. Brick Company, yes. Also, check these out. These were done by Valk. So, let me just boom this one right here. Look at the glory. Look at him. It's the Emperor. And as far as this one goes, this is the one done by Valk Student. This is actually a little poster. There we go. Look at his little face. Look at it. Little thing. Good times rhymes with war crimes. It's so nice. It's so nice. And she managed to do this, and I don't know how to do that. Volgan covered a crappy roadside motel. But, yes, just opened this up in the last week. So, that's happened. Whoop. So, depending on how everything goes, I'm planning on doing a little bit more in there, such as Y6, several other things. Also, you're gonna hear some grumbling in the background today, and the reason you're gonna hear some grumbling is Volcana's in the room with me. And the reason she's in the room with me is because, well, she's going through a certain time of life for a pug. And we might be seeing some new war pugs here in about 2 months' time. I'm just saying. And if we do, I'm setting up a stream where I'm just going to stream them nonstop. They're going to be little tiny fat things. It's going to be glorious. Yeah, she's a good puggo. Now, Volcana gets along with the kitty. Just fine. But we have to have her in here, else everything just goes psychotic. You hear that? Oh, now you stop. There we go. So, between the cat pawing at my arm and Volcana demanding my attention, I'm a busy guy. But, we're here for this. Get out of my... Go! Stop being a pest. Yes, dogs are a gift from the man emperor of mankind. A gift that we do not deserve. Why do you come over here now? Look at this garbage. What are you doing? Look at it. This is what I deal with day-to-day basis. Yes. This is how that goes. Little Fluffo. Now, Cat, if you don't mind, I'd like to get down to it. I'd like to get to what I gotta do. Yes. Warpugs, we're here for Dawn of the Dominions. This is the light... Well, not Dawn of the Dominions, the light flares. So apparently we're moving on to the next... We might be leaving this planet behind for a little bit, which would be interesting. But, let's see. X and chat, if you're ready to go. I know I am. Let's get ready. It's time. I have been waiting. We need more Kane and Jurgen. Yes, we do. Let's go.
Hold still, Heck, said the Inquisitor. One hand wrapped firmly around Hecate's chin and lower jaw, the other holding up a pen-like object which was rapidly flashing blue from one end. Hecate, who was sitting awkwardly on the side of the medical bed Samael had been occupying earlier, fidgeted and gnashed her teeth, her face creased with furious lines as she glared up at the blue light.
Doesn't like being touched.
Hecate growled through her openly clenched teeth. Samael frowned, holding the blinking blue beam of light steady on her right red eye. He could not help but notice that shifting her face back from third was becoming more difficult each time it occurred. An existential issue given that Hecate could not exist for prolonged periods in her third face. Not without causing extensive damage to herself and anyone or thing too close to her.
Yeah?
He lamented that she was becoming stronger to her own detriment, and his mimetic ploys would only work for so much longer if he did not figure something else out. Yeah? Well, I wouldn't have to if you would just hold still, heck. Samael growled right back. Just deal with it for a few more seconds, the Inquisitor ordered. Don't like it. Don't. She continued growling before.
And I know some of you guys right now are sitting there looking at her, knowing what she has done and what she's capable of, and you're like, yep, I can fix her.
Trailing off.
Remember, she's not the type of girl to key your car. She's the kind of girl that throw your car at you. Just saying.
Starting to relax. Samael sighed in frank relief as the change back into her first face finally triggered. Her internal augmentations winding down, most of her mangled mind being resubmerged in the warm void of her mimetic training. It was not long after this that her luminous red eyes began to slowly change, first diluting into a light purple color, and then into a bright, shiny blue as the nanoparticulates within her irises returned to clinging to her nerve centers.
There you go,
recharging themselves on her bioelectrical energy. She frowned and crossed her arms, staring into the light more steadily now, and once he determined that she was calm enough, the Inquisitor released her chin, Hecate puffing a long sigh from her nose just as he did. I do not understand why any of this procedure is necessary. The woman seems more like a liability than an asset, remarked Tempestor Prime Cinder, who stood not far behind, all three of them yet lingering within Ishtara's shrine. What she seems to you is none of my concern, and understanding why this must be done is none of your concern.
There you go.
Do you have it? Samael snapped, a heated spike rising in his chest. Cinder nodded, face expressionless, as he stepped forward and withdrew a gray bag composed of a tightly packed plastic. It had little white star designs across its exterior, and Cinder tossed it with one hand towards the large form of Samael. Yes, Inquisitor, the Prime said as he did. Samael snatched it out of the air without looking back at either the bag or Cinder himself. Taking it with his now free hand, he flashed the blue light into Hecate's other eye, and when he was reassured that she was not going to slide back into her third face as soon as he turned around, he deactivated the small light and stowed it, tearing open the plastic pack and fishing out a wrapped, circular lump of hardened processed sugar, ice blue in color, and mounted on the end of a tightly rolled paper straw. Here, Samael said, flicking it from his hand to her. Despite having shifted to her first face, Hecate still snatched the lollipop he had flicked at her out of the air with a speed Samael could not naturally match, tearing the plastic sheath from the head of the candy and stuffing it behind one cheek in the blink of an eye. Her frown became an impishly delighted smile, and Samael, satisfied, stood up and took a deep breath, subduing the sudden wave of anxiety that struck him. The nervous and nearly fearful burst was not born of the situation which surrounded him. After all, he still had two potent agents on the outside, waiting for his signal. When the Inquisitor...
Nice. So basically she can be pacified with candy. Yes, Graydon, we represent the Lollipop Guild. She is the armed forces of the Munchkin Land. Let's go.
Inquisitor decided the time was right. He and Hecate would break out of this place and vanish into Axum's planet-wide hive. And from there, he would work out a way to rejoin his forces. He was also not nervous about the Exterminatus weapon that had been supposedly dropped onto Axum, for he would know by now if it had succeeded in detonating, and it obviously had not.
Yep.
What made Samael feel these emotions was something hidden from him. But he strongly suspected that they were a direct result of his new mechanical heart. Unlike a natural heart, his new eternal muscles did not beat or clench like his old ones had. Instead, his new heart hummed continuously in his chest, filtering his blood and pumping it mechanically and smoothly at a perfectly even pace throughout his body. Had he only one heart, this may have been able to neutralize most of his ability to even feel anxiety. But being that he had two hearts, his second was available and willing to hammer and speed in his chest, sensing the disturbance, as did so many other internal systems of his body. At least, this was what he attributed this all to, as he hastily withdrew a glow stick from his jacket and lit it with one of his many spare lighters.
There you go.
He took a deep drag and exhaled it slowly, savoring the effect. The glow stick itself was far, far too mild to have any actual power over him, given his mostly Astartes biology. But, just like Hecate, he had programmed himself with a myriad of corrective mimetic treatments, and this was by far his most used. As he tasted the soot and smoke of the oily burning weed of the glow stick, associations and Pavlovian pathways awoke within his mind, triggering the alterations he had hypnotized into his subconscious. The pain in his body, not just from the recent operation, but from his very nature, began to dissolve and vanish from his conscious thoughts, replaced by the heady taste and smell of the cigarette between his fingers. He leaned against the wall, resting his head in his hand and taking another long drag as he did, sighing smoke as relief began to circulate through his mutant body. "Inquisitor Weiler?" asked a man's voice, a voice that did not belong to Cinder. Samael turned his head slightly to look towards the entrance of the room, and standing there was the shape of Saint Lazarus.
It's
the
our
man
boy.
seemed almost timid, despite his vestments and armor and, of course, his soldier's bearing. Samael recognized that reaction well, sighing and dragging on his glow stick one more time, burning it nearly down to the stump, before flicking the rest away into a brazier and turning to fully face the new saint. "Approach, Saint Lazarus," said the Inquisitor, instantly noting how Lazarus untensed, particularly with his title being spoken, and thus affirmed. "We have made a decision on the ceasefire," the saint said, a tension flowing beneath his words that suggested to Weiler that they were not merely settling with the safe option of martyrs' deaths.
Yeah.
"You have decided to attend the ceasefire negotiation," Samael guessed, though his voice stated it as though it were a fact, almost an accusation.
Yep.
And the former sergeant made Major tensed once more and nearly stepped back. "How did you—" Lazarus began to say. "It is your place to lead the faithful, St. Lazarus. It is my place to know them," the Inquisitor claimed with all the certainty and graveness of a man who was not bluffing. And the saint nodded, momentarily awed and reminded of the power of the Inquisition.
Great, and if you're still wondering just who took out the leaders of the fleet for the Republic, just do the following, okay? Get a skull mask, look in the mirror, and then play Andrew WK's Get Ready to Die while screaming "Re" at the top of your lungs until you understand. At that point, you'll understand, okay?
With that, Samael recalled how unexpectedly easy it was to convince nearly anyone that he was an all-knowing agent of the throne. All he needed to do was offer a ploy, a trick, a petty contrivance or twist of phrase, and the reputation of the organization did the rest.
Well, there you go.
But, of course, Samael was far from that, and his follow-up, spoken so naturally as to hide its hypocrisy, was the subtle evidence of that.
Explain yourself then, Saint. Tell me, in your own words, why you think this is the right decision.
Samael said, using a dangerous but neutral voice, a voice which suggested much, but promised nothing. Straightening like a rod as the intended effect of the ploy struck him, Lazarus began to cautiously, but firmly, explain his plan, his reasoning, and his need for Samael himself. And the Inquisitor had to admit he was intrigued.
Okay. Yay! Back to her now. Nice. Ronnie asked, with the idea of a peace treaty, things are looking up. How bad the thing's gonna go? Bad? Very bad.
Demons! Damn demons!
The Lord Admiral bellowed, eyes wide and filled with the semblance of fire, a reflection of her own burning ships, discharging their rending weapons to the void, each surrounded by a shimmering shoal of Republic ships.
Shy.
Have shield fleets Primaris and Secundus merge into one force and provide interdiction cover for the Born on Death! Now!
Rolus Endurance screamed from her command throne, her left hand rapidly typing away at her armrest-mounted input console. Her head ached terribly, her internal mental cogitators forcibly splitting her mind into as many simultaneous processes as she could manage. Hands and voice struggling to send out enough orders to counteract her numerous foes. The effort made the lines on her face tighten and deepen, and her rage spark all the brighter as she suffered through the effects needed to keep pace. Though she was unsure she could even say that much. The enemy were fighting her almost like teammates would. The swarms of Arrowhead escorts acting like a single large entity more often than not, immune to routing or intimidation, without being able to drive the enemy off or manipulate their crowd psychology. And with the Republic being so openly willing to eat any losses as long as it meant keeping her pressed and suffocating, Rolo was being corralled down to a battle of raw angles and numbers, and forcing her into inevitable positions that were gradually wearing everything down.
Target their swarm clusters and switch to area munitions immediately! Battleship Master of Stars, you are to take lead of the frontal assault!
She tapped out with her hard, artificial fingers. Her eyes moved back up to the hololithic displays, glossy orbs reflecting the ill portents being projected there, each displayed in green luminescence that flickered with each shake and rumble of her besieged ship.
Right, you're asking, if Rolla doesn't know about Omega, who sent the Evisor? That would be your friends from the Mechanicus.
Rolla's eyes flicked down to the console at her left then, scanning it, reading each line in a flash as more responses came in.
Understood, my Lord Admiral. Master of Stars, now engaging the front with full battery macro salvos.
This is the Resplendent Doom reporting. We are sustaining heavy fire from multiple vectors. The coordination is unprecedented. Our maneuvering thrusters are crippled. We cannot contend for much longer without support.
The Lord Admiral of the Zektek sector grit her teeth, nostrils flaring as she absorbed the reports.
Acknowledged, Captain Valigator. Contacting nearby cruisers. I need concentrated fire over the Resplendent Doom's sunward flank. Break their encirclement by giving the Doom a wall to grind them against. Born on death, support the Resplendent Doom's sunless flank. Scatter them.
The Lord Admiral sent rapidly, and all the while, transmissions around her bombarded her with even more, her eyes bobbing up and swiveling. With reluctance, she shunted off a quarter of the reports to her sub-commanders, letting them sort and handle whatever may come from them, having strict orders to only send back reports that needed her absolute attention. She would have wanted to trust them with these tasks more as the void raged around them, but doing so cost her time, and she was dancing on seconds as it was. No time could be spared. A man appeared then. Not a real man, but the reflection of one.
Okay.
A hololith manifesting right before her eyes.
Gorst reporting. Vengeance class cruiser moving to answer the call. The swarms will break. Give us 30 seconds.
Reported the hazy, emerald phantom of Admiral Gorst. Rolla nodded, eyes moving up past him and looking into the other hololiths and the void beyond them. Out in the burning black, through the blistering displays of flashing lights and murdered metal of every variety, the vast, grand cruiser known as the Resplendent Doom was being lit ablaze. Its colossal body surrounded on all sides by persistent Republic arrowheads and clouds of strike craft. The breaking behemoth moaned inaudibly into the vacuum of space, bleeding from a million glowing cuts as the Republic wolves at all sides brayed for its death in continued colored streams and bolts of superheated plasma. Then, like a wall of light, or the very hand of the cosmic emperor of mankind himself, a stream of energy and munitions composed of macro cannons and lance discharges lit space like a divine river of resplendent death, nearly scorching the side of the Resplendent Doom and eradicating every Republic ship on that flank. The Doom did not miss a beat. Barely functioning retro thrusters and maneuvering jets spitting and coughing to life, beginning to move the Imperial battleship into a leisurely twirl, spinning and dragging the Republic vessels which had invisibly anchored themselves to it via tractor beams. Those too slow or inept to disengage found themselves torn to pieces in the obliterating wall of Imperial support fire. And yet, escape proved more difficult than even those quick reflexes could compensate for.
Hooray!
Something which was revealed as the Republic ships which had managed to avoid this fate fell victim to one just as hideous, finding themselves targeted by various weapons under the command of Admiral Gorst. The grim man smiled from the darkened, sparking bridge of his own flagship, scarred face cut with his subtle, gleaming grin. Every murdered Republic arrowhead fed him like a beast built and bred on the death of tens of thousands.
Oh, boy.
Yet, only moments later, that grin died, along with the Admiral who had borne it. Multiple Y-wing attack bombers had converged on him, quick engines and small shapes appearing as if from nowhere. Proton torpedoes struck, overwhelming already weakened void shields and collapsing the canopy of Gorst's bridge. The Breaker of Heretics survived its own decapitation, but only physically. Now drifting, a dead body in the void, a prison for 100,000 screaming souls. Back on board Rolla's ship, the Green Ghost.
Well, Gorst is down.
of the grinning admiral vanished, snuffed like a candle in the dark, never again to be lit. "Contact with Admiral Gorst has been lost," reported one of the communications officers. The Lord Admiral grit her teeth, rage seizing in her chest, tears of anger gathering in her eyes, for she could not take a moment to mourn, not even to slam her fist in anger against her chair. She could do nothing but continue issuing orders, continue to stumble after this collapse of an assault, continue to pray to the God Emperor for some escape from this downward spiral. And less than 15 minutes from the end of her hour, Rola's prayers were answered in the voice of the machine god, flickering to life as suddenly as Gorst had been taken from it. A new, massive hololith appeared before her, swallowing her view and dominating it with the insectoid lensed face of Archmagos Lesat Gamma.
Archmagos?
Rola began to say, but barely got the word out before the binaural drone of the venerable tech priest filled the room.
Central command juncture located. Certainty at 87.7%.
Yay!
Raising communications interdiction at location in 250 seconds.
He communicated to her across the bridge, Vox Howlers.
No, it
Many
was a
cringed
Mechanicus.
and winced at the harsh stream of sound, but the expression on Rola's sweat-streaked face was anything but pained, a white grin slicing across her otherwise grim features.
Send me the coordinates for this central command juncture.
Rola ordered the Archmagos, even as her eyes slid away and landed on her communications officer.
Get me a secure line. Full priority channel to the murder-class cruiser Vengeful Sun. Go!
She snapped, the officer turning down to his console and beginning the process of doing as she had ordered.
Coordinates are sent.
The huge holographic tech priest murmured in his logic tongue, and not a second later, the communications officer raised a thumbs up. "The Vengeful Sun is on Vox. Connection is secure," he reported.
Good. You have my thanks, Archmagos.
Rola said before pressing a key on her control console that dismissed his image before he could even respond. The inhuman shape of the tech priest replaced by the far more recognizable form of Captain Samson Lucenter. Tall, darkly dressed.
It would have been the guy with the chops. It would have been the guy in the chops, yes.
And wearing black shaded glasses over his missing and now bionic eyes. The holographic captain watched her from beneath the brim of his sharp naval cap. "Lord Admiral," he said simply, standing somewhat at attention but offering no more honors.
Yeah.
Captain Lucenter, I have you on a completely secure line. No one outside of my bridge or yours can hear or see anything we are discussing.
Rola said quickly. "An interesting thing to mention," responded the captain, undaunted and unchanged.
I mention it, Captain, because I am distinctly aware of the fact that you are either working for the Inquisition or you are a direct member of it.
Snapped the Lord Admiral. "Lord Admiral Sindurin, I do not know."
Oh, I don't
the
know
captain
any of
began,
that you're talking
as
about.
casually as reciting a well-rehearsed script.
Yes.
But Rola was not contacting him to hear auditions for a play.
I am also aware of the fact that your murder-class cruiser is the fastest cruiser in the Zektek sector. And rest assured, Captain, that I do not for even a single second believe that this is a coincidence.
Rola pressed on.
Oh.
"And why, theoretically, would any of that be relevant to you, Lord Admiral?" he asked, tilting his head to the side ever so slightly.
It is relevant because I just got the coordinates of the Central Intelligence that the Republic is using to facilitate its fleet actions. Coordinates I am sending now.
She told him, turning to the side and nodding to her comms officer, who nodded back and sent them. A second later, Captain Lucenter tilted his own head, looking away from the Lord Admiral briefly, studying something on his own ship before his eyes returned to her, and he nodded. It is in the Emperor's hands now, Lord Rola. Faith is rewarded," he responded enigmatically.
Yes.
And the Emperor protects.
Yes.
Rola concluded. He nodded again before vanishing. "The Emperor protects."
Oof. And then everybody died.
Lazarus found him standing outside, staring up into the sky with a hollow expression. The saint sighed heavily, feeling the emotional weight of yet another burden settle onto the space of his shoulders. "Forgive me, soldier," he thought to himself, gritting his teeth behind tight lips and moving forward to stand beside the recently interrogated guardsman. Farnes did not seem to notice, arms limp at his side as he stared up at the dying hues of the sky, letting some light in through the empty portals of his colorless eyes. Small shocks of white poked out from the sloppy mane of his unkempt hair, which rustled gently in the wind, his helmet held limply in his left hand. A telling, dire breath from Farnes revealed to Lazarus that the young man was aware of his presence, but, for whatever reasons still existed in his slowly mending mind, the Vestellan irregular said nothing, did not even move his eyes away from the empty fixed point in the white and blue sky above them, save for the subtle trembling which possessed each of his eyes. Subtle though it was, Lazarus noticed it, and knew it for what it was, the smallest surface ripple on a storm of broken psyche which was likely spinning and hastily reassembling itself. Time was needed for those things to settle down. Time was needed for healing to fully take place.
Yeah.
But time was not a commodity that Lazarus had in any great amount. Relying more on instinct than experience, the recently sainted sergeant placed a firm metal hand onto Farnes' shoulder, squeezing it, and by that, grounding the younger man. "You lost nearly your whole squad," Lazarus stated, another sharp breath hissing into Farnes' lungs. "You watched your sergeant die.
Lorgar, calm down,
wounds,
buddy.
Took losses. And at the end of it, the Republic went so far as to crash a void ship on top of you. You had to endure capture. Endure the capture of your comrade. Endure the shame and pain of helplessness. And then, after making it out of all of that, after arriving back with us, you again were forced through another extremely trying struggle." The saint continued, hand firm on the soldier's shoulder. "I could have spared you from it, but I had to be sure. And for that necessity, I am sorry," Lazarus admitted, and he meant it too. For a moment, the effects of his words seemed muted. But then, Farnes broke the trend, looking at Lazarus and shaking his head. "No," said the young man. Lazarus quirked his eyebrows. "No," he parroted. "No, I... Farnes mumbled, seeming to mentally stumble for a few moments before beginning to regain his footing. "That isn't... What I mean to say, sir, is that I understand. I understand why that had to happen." He finally managed to explain, though the explanation did little for Lazarus.
Yeah, galaxy-wide, we know.
The new saint squinted his eyes at the younger man, still seeing in him something that his voiced acceptance did not signal. Shaking his head, Lazarus squeezed the guardsman's shoulder with his metal hand one more time.
What is it, you little angry thing? What is it? Why are you angry? Why are you angry, huh? You okay? Just angry? You mad? Okay, you're good now. You're good. That's good. There you go. Okay. Yeah, she does sense a heretic. She does. Alright, hold on. Let's see how long I can do this before you go nuts. Alright, let's see here. There we go.
I'll make sure this wasn't for nothing. I'll get us out of here. Mankind must suffer, so that, Lazarus began to say, so that we can survive. Varnus finished for him. I know that.
Okay, hold on.
I made a promise to a comrade. A vow. I swore that there were things which I saw her do, things which I would not repeat. Heresies to the machine cult, but not sins in the eyes of the God Emperor. He explained, his eyes still distant, still hollow in their distinct way. She was strong enough to do the impossible. And all she asked of me is that I keep her secret. And I couldn't even do that. I failed my vow. And now, even if we do get her back, she may be interrogated like I was. Or executed for what she managed to do, or worse.
Lazarus watched Varnus silently as he spoke, pieces slowly clicking into place as he remembered the Magos' sudden change in demeanor, and her insistence that he do what the Republic asked in order to retrieve Nerva Sharp. Was it possible that she was being retrieved only to be destroyed? Odd as it was, Lazarus knew better than to put such a possibility beyond the capacity or schemes of the Adeptus Mechanicus. He shook his head. "You are coming with us," Lazarus stated, the words shocking Varnus from his torpor and prompting him to swing his head back to fully stare at the saint. What? Varnus stuttered. "You heard me, soldier."
Yeah, she's going to go with them. Now you're going to take a break. You're going to take a chill pill. Okay? 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 Now you chill. There we go. Yeah, you'll be in the room. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've been waiting for Mace to reappear for some time now myself. I really do. I really have been waiting for that for quite a while now.
This whole operation is only happening because of you, so you are going to see it through. In fact, I can't think of anyone better to supervise the prisoner exchange, and to ensure they're taken care of once retrieved, Lazarus said, firming his jaw.
But why?
Varnus began to ask.
Because I said so!
Off by the saint in a pointed way. "Are you questioning my command, Guardsman Eliton?" Lazarus asked, expression lining with a scowl as his sergeant's demeanor consumed him for a brief instant. Varnus remembered himself all at once and snapped back to old instincts. He saluted and shook his head. No, sir!" he said loudly. "Good. Then tell me this and tell me straight. If I give you the authority and force to do so, do you think you could stand against the insistence of a tech priest Magos fervently enough to keep all of the prisoners safe while they are in my custody?" asked the Imperial Saint.
I love
Varnus
it.
barely hesitated as the meaning behind it all sank in. Face turning rosy as his expression set into a determined affirmation, he nodded sharply. "Sir, yes I can, sir!" was his response. "Good. That is what the Emperor needs to hear from his shield and hammer."
There you
"Give
go.
me 1 moment," said Saint Lazarus, turning away and withdrawing a vox bead from his pocket, placing it into his ear before beginning to speak again. "Prime, are you available?" "Good. Meet me just outside the front. And bring Velix with you," he said, speaking through the bead. Shortly thereafter, Tempestor Prime Cinder emerged from the basilica, another soldier in tow, a woman who, despite her prim uniform and precise military bearing, had no weapon, not even a sidearm. She had bright blonde hair, which she kept short and out of her vision, tucked under a stormtrooper's beret, and light brown eyes beneath it all.
They both stopped before the Saint and saluted just as sharply as Farnes had.
Stop it. No. There, you can see it now, can you? Knock it off. Knock it off. No. No. Why are you such an angry little thing today?
At ease, he said, waving their salutes down. Velix, Lazarus added, fixing the woman with a hard stare.
Saint Lazarus.
She said in return, holding her hands behind her back and her feet wide in a parade rest. Lazarus noted that she was not using any of his military titles, and more than that, the former captain seemed perfectly professional, neither...
What? What? Okay. You just want to see out? Fine.
Too at ease, nor too rigid, her eyes filled with neither loyalty nor hostility, merely obedience. Will you take my orders? The former sergeant...
Give me a second. Alright, you can sit up here, but you gotta be calm. You gotta be cool. Alright? Alright? There. There. Now. No, don't be all like that. There you go. Okay. Now, you chill. Okay? You chill.
Sergeant asked firmly. Her answer came as a sharp nod. Good. Private Eliton here is going to be in charge of the prisoner exchange, and afterwards, I am delegating the task of safeguarding them to him. You are to aid him in these endeavors, and any others he requests for the duration of his assignment, or until otherwise noted by myself or Tempest or Prime Cinder. Is that directive clear? Lazarus asked, treating her like a rank private standing in his squad line. She took it in stride, nodding sharply once more.
Crystal clear, sir.
She voiced as she did. Outstanding. Go now and begin preparing yourself and Private Eliton for this task. Make sure you have the required force needed to keep all returned prisoners within our custody, even from an ally force. The Saint concluded, Sheriff Velix nodding again, saluting, and then turning towards Farnes, who stood at their side. He seemed quite shocked by what he had just observed, but was not given a lot of time to reflect on it.
Let us go. We must prepare an escort force and medical team,
said Shara, and, flinching somewhat, Farnes nodded.
Right, yeah, after you,
the guardsman said, and together they departed back into the basilica. Lazarus and Cinder watched them leave for a few moments before Cinder turned his head to look at the other man, though he said nothing, waiting for orders or for a dismissal. Prime Cinder, how is the contingency coming along? Asked Lazarus, eyes still fixed on the back of the two departing soldiers.
We have very few men,
Cinder replied.
On top of that, most of our heavy fire support was crushed under the Republic Void ship when it landed.
He went on. But not your fleet of Tarak's troop transports, right? Lazarus pressed, and Cinder grimaced, but shook his head.
No, most of them are still intact and within the basilica walls,
Cinder confirmed. And with only the few hundred men that we have, we should be able to load them all up, right? The Saint went on, and again, Cinder was forced to acquiesce with a nod.
Then it will have to do,
said Lazarus with a sigh, rubbing his eyes.
There is no guarantee that this will work,
Cinder reminded the Saint, and the former sergeant nodded.
There never is,
he groaned.
But we have to punish them.
Lazarus added, his back straightening and expression firming, drawing his hand away from his face.
We have to ensure
that if they do betray us, if they do try to trick us when we deal with them in good faith, that they either die or live to deeply regret it.
I honestly, don't think that Space Marines would advantage too much from Mjolnir power armor, but I'll be much more interested to see what would happen if you gave the Deathcore Krieg Terran Marine power armor from StarCraft 2 or StarCraft 1. Doesn't matter. Look at this. Are you regretting your decision to bark? Are you regretting your decisions? Huh? Are you? Are you? Look at this little face. This little face. Look at it. Alright, let's go.
Everyone around him was shocked, confused, and quietly horrified.
Yay!
But he was not. He could not be, for Admiral Spikes was dead to novelty and unimpressed by power. And the moment he had come to understand that the Oracle command system was all linked through a single ship, he had known that, eventually, whether in this battle or in the next, the Imperials would realize it and would target it. And he knew that if they succeeded, this would happen. The previously coordinated mobs of the Republic starships suddenly halted mid-maneuvers, floundering in space as if concussed and unconscious. Spikes watched, hands behind his back, sparks flying from the partially shattered cabin of his bridge, reflecting off the glossy
Is this Seven Nation Army in Gothic?
visor of his helmet. He said nothing, did nothing, besides watch the hologram before him, watch the blue candles beginning to be snuffed out en masse by the blazing torches they were made to contend with. And, in his mind, he counted down. He had been preparing for this potential outcome, and one thing he had been forced to reckon with early in the process was the fact that if he acted too early, before the need was evident, then he would have no implicit authority with which to take command, even from the now mute Oracle. And so, teeth clenched, face hidden, Spikes waited, his hands balling into fists behind his back. His right arm came forward, a single digit lowering slowly over a communications key which was blinking blue, primed ahead of this moment for his use. He waited, and then took a breath, pressing the luminous key. Right away, his bridge was filled with the voices of countless panicking, frustrated, or dying authorities, all vying for some measure of control over the comms. The cacophony they created did nothing but jam everything up.
Hooray!
Unlike them, he was prepared already. Spikes nodded to his comms officer, and the man nodded back, twisting a dial on the console before him and amplifying the volume of Spike's communicator, but not on Spike's end.
This is Admiral Spikes of the Victory Fleet. Clear the comms and prepare to receive orders,
He said, neither raising his voice or inflicting anger into his demand.
Okay.
But thanks to the alterations his comms officer had just made, Spike's voice boomed through the network of admirals and captains, drowning out even their sudden cries of shock and surprise from the loudness of the communication.
I defeated an Imperial force before, and I can do so again.
Spikes preempted, his voice coming down to a more normal level,
Yeah.
gratified by the fact that no one interrupted him. The clone admiral did not miss a beat.
All starships, fall back into your original battle groups. Break off from your current attack patterns, but ensure your retreat vectors are aligned with the angle of an Imperial starship, one or more. Make sure that to fire on us is to risk friendly casualties.
A distinct, cold voice cut in across the comms,
and Spikes knew at once that it was the dismissive tenor of Admiral Tarkin. Belay those orders. We have them on the retreat. Resume your previous attack patterns and press them hard. Give no
Tarkin, shut up.
quarter, even onto the last man.
Spikes clenched his teeth from behind his lips, his straight posture failing to betray the sudden anger that filled him, the only exterior sign of it being his gloved, creaking, clenched fist.
Admiral Tarkin, we cannot sustain these losses, and we cannot resume those attack patterns until the Oracle comes online. There is no time for debate. We have already created a large debris field to cover us at a distance.
Yeah.
Admiral Spikes insisted.
Yeah, but Tarkin, he's Tarkin. Why would you delay your moment of triumph?
What do we gain from pulling back now? We cannot lift the pressure until we win this.
Tarkin countered.
Open your eyes, Will Huff!
Spikes suddenly spat.
The enemy is clearly retreating out of this location. We can win if we let them go at a cost. We will lose if we manage to back them against a wall. We've already won. We just have to finish driving them out.
I will not.
Tarkin began.
Enough. All vessels
Hold on a second.
switch to main.
The pug has gotten away. 1 second. Come here, pug. Hey. Hey. Pug. 1 second, everybody. It's part of wrangling a pug. Gotta wrangle this pug. Come here, pug. Yeah, you. Get in there. No. Now you chill. You were out. You sniffed all the things. You happy now? You happy? Okay. Don't worry. Soon. Alright, there we go. The pug is on the loose. Yes, the pug is looking to crusade. Although what they're crusading against, I have no idea. No idea. Nah. Oh. No, don't you start. There, move you right up next to me. How about that? Don't you dare say something heresy like Rat Eye. I see everything. Stop. Sorry about this, guys. Alright, hold on a second. She's just unhappy right now. Give me a second. Alright. Alright. 1 second. I know. Okay. The warden is doing stuff right now, so you get to go in there and be with her. I don't have to babysit your loud self no more. Come here. Oh! Trying to run past me for, huh? And go. Alright, here you go, babe. That's why she was freaking out. She smelled food. Okay, here we go. Taco Tuesday does not belong on a Monday. Just some guy. It does not belong on a Monday. Okay. So the reason she started flipping out is because my wife pulled some stuff out and cooked a little bit. She smelled food. And she declared crusade.
In Comline, I will direct you from there. If any wish to differ to Admiral Tarkin's direction, by all means feel free to. Everyone else is to fall back to the debris field for protection, moving in a layered withdrawal. Keep the enemy engaged all the while. Never let up. Prioritize the use of missiles, torpedoes, and mines. Use them all and prepare for a hyperspace exit.
He ordered before nodding to his comms officer and hearing the lines switch to the tertiary command communications line he would be using from that moment on. Whether Tarkin did or did not continue to vie on the main channel for control of the fleet was not something that Spikes concerned himself with, for soon it was clear that the vast majority of the Armada was now taking his orders.
That might be a
and
bad thing.
Things began to progress quickly from there. Once given a chance to flee from the stinging shoals of the Republic, the Imperial craft did so, breaking away in their own layered withdrawal, both fleets gradually separating and lobbing munitions at each other from the distance. But even the Imperial forces seemed to loathe to deploy their harder armaments. They appeared to be only concerned with recovering and fleeing with what they could, and as the distance between them stretched and stretched, the fires in the skies began to dim, flickering and vanishing, piece by piece, as most of the Imperial vessels began to depart the system. Most, but not all. Lazarus and the others were ready.
So the Imperial fleet has left the building with a few ships left. Okay.
Or at least mostly ready. They stood as a group, loitering around the entrance to the Basilica as they made ready for what was potentially their final mission. Commissar Leros stood beside Farnes, checking his disheveled uniform with a pinched face, while the youth stood at attention. To be fair, he was doing an admirable job of holding his poise well, with only a little sweat on his brow to indicate his present fear of potential and sudden execution.
Yes, and
But Lazarus knew better, knowing that if she did decide to kill him, she would do it at the negotiation meeting, and only if it turned out to be any kind of deception or trap. In fact, the Saint suspected strongly that this was the only reason she was insisting that he act as her guard for the meeting. Keep your enemies close and all of that. Not far from them was Magos Aurora, leaning against the wall in some kind of meditation or resting state. Her large stave axe resting against the shoulder of her intact arm. Standing near to her was a surprising figure to Lazarus, the young, one-armed Krieger from before, who stood straight nearby,
Our
holding
boy.
his pistol in his hand, evidently taking his assigned duty as the Magos' guard very seriously.
He is a proven element.
Was what she told Lazarus when he had asked her about the choice, though she had not deemed to elaborate any further.
yes.
Even so, Lazarus felt that he understood. After all, the young Death Corpsman had saved his life within the Axumite Mall, and had apparently continued to perform admirably, doing far more than merely surviving. Even then, Lazarus was idly scrolling through a data slate which displayed 1313's recent combat reports. He had been one of the first Kriegers to fight his way to the back lines of the Republic bridge defenses and emplacements, and had been among the soldiers who had captured a Republic power cell to use for jamming their local communications. He had fought alongside and survived being part of the diversionary force on the park platform, and he had helped to rescue Ishtara Ordain during their retreat from the Avenue. And that was just what had been recorded so far. Lazarus looked up at the warrior, nodding to himself as he did. A proven element indeed.
A little bit of one, yeah.
Mysterious as the Magos' direct reasons may be, he could at least hazard a guess as to why she would make her choice, especially given that all of the combat servitors were either destroyed or damaged beyond acceptable function. As he turned his eyes towards the two others who lingered nearby, he was flooded with a sense of appreciation for the data slate he had on the Krieger, for at least he had something. Standing away from the others was the Inquisitor,
a throne agent named Samael Weiler, and close beside him, his own chosen guard, the blonde-haired and blue-eyed young woman who had carried him to the Basilica. To call them an odd pair would be a certain understatement. Samael was an enormous man, with broad shoulders, a defined face, and shiny black eyes, as if his pupils were dilated at all times.
Yep.
In contrast, the petite guard at his side stood comfortably in his shadow, kicking her feet absently as she waited, one hand twirling and fidgeting with her long blonde hair. Her eyes were an achingly vibrant blue, a blue that was glowing, Lazarus would realize when she caught his eye as he stared. The bags under those blue eyes made her look beleaguered and tired, but her demeanor did not display it, waving at him almost childishly when their eyes had met. What appeared to be a sweet sucker stuffed under one of her cheeks. He was tall and broad, she was small and slender. His eyes were black pits, and hers were like pale quasars, glowing heavily in tired sockets. She was casual, playful, absent-minded, but the Inquisitor was stone-faced, one hand rubbing the stubble
Depends
on
on
his
where
chin,
you are, Antikira.
his mind many miles away within the confines of his thoughts. The juxtaposition was not lost on Lazarus, though he struggled to understand what he should make of it. I guess in the end, it does not matter. He agreed to the plan. I should be grateful for that alone. Lazarus thought to himself, quashing any questions that bubbled up in his mind. Without that Inquisitor's acquiescence, none of this would have been able to proceed, not with any kind of real legitimacy at least. Lazarus wished to turn his eyes upon the last member of his group, but alas, she was not present with them. Each of them had a guard of their own. Jane had Private Eliton. Magos Aurora had 1313. The Inquisitor had his strange knife-wielding woman, and Lazarus, naturally, was permitted to have a guard as well. Unsurprisingly, he had chosen Sister Leandra Ordain as his protector.
Of course.
An assignment he had assumed she would want. And, indeed, when he had told her, she had not seemed disappointed or dismayed by it. And yet, she had hastily departed his side soon after. Leandra had been with him almost continuously since the moment that her mother had made clear her will concerning him, with the exceptions being made mostly due to orders and necessities of combat.
True.
Here, neither were in play, and yet he had not seen her since. Flashes of lightsabers igniting played through his mind, and he felt a sharp thrill of fear cleave through him as the possibility of more Jedi assassins ran amok in his mind for a few shrill seconds. But those concerns were cut down as Lazarus snapped his head around towards the gates to the Basilica, taking a step towards it before breathing out a sigh of relief as the missing sister appeared there, walking from the recesses of the temple and towards the group. Lazarus smiled at the sight of Leandra, but his eyes soon swept away from her face and down to what she was holding in her hands. Sister, it's good to see you. I had feared we may miss you, he said as she came close, feeling a sudden surge of cold run up his spine. Again, the former sergeant's eyes were pulled down from Leandra's reddish hazel eyes back to whatever it was she held.
Forgive my lateness, Saint. But being your guardian, I could not neglect this.
She explained, her own eyes following his down to her own hands. Lazarus.
Exen Chattanooga Lorgar, Exen Chattanooga the last old one. Nuke them. Just nuke the whole of chat. Just nuke the whole of chat.
Lazarus raised the eyebrow on the good side of his face. And what is this, exactly? He asked, Leandra presenting the object to him in response. At first, he mistook it for a ceremonial skull mask, like what the captains and commanders of the Freylin Faithful wore. But soon he spotted the strange, expanding lattice of crystal veins that was spreading out from the center of the skeletal forehead. Yeah.
Alistair said, "Go for it, Lazarus. Hope you survive." Damn that art. All of you.
Gyaxian Krell, Lazarus asked, looking up. Whether he is or is not a saint in truth, Leandra said in response. His will is still to serve the Emperor, and I would not deny him that. If he cannot be a saint, then let him walk with one and defend him from the vileness of the warp, she said, extending it out towards him. Lazarus reached out and took the mask gingerly. The skull of Gyaxian Krell had been altered, filed and shaped to fit onto Lazarus's face, and turning it around, the new saint could see that light gravlocks and cushion fibers had been strategically attached into the interior portions of it. He lifted it, catching the attention of Commissar Leros as he did. And if Gyaxian is a saint? Lazarus asked, his eyes up and looking at the finely honed mask, the remains of yet another man who had been raised above his station in this fight. Then the Republic will not meet with one vaunted saint of the Emperor, but two, and our chances for success shall be double. The sister.
Oh. So, yeah, he's going with the skull mask. Hooray.
Responded, prompting a light chuckle from Lazarus. Yes, I suppose that would be true. The dual-headed saint, the former soldier said, before lowering the mask, carefully placing it over his expression and activating the gravlocks, adhering it to his face. It was
there we go.
Perfectly molded. How did you manage to shape it so well? Spying on me more closely than I had realized, are you? Lazarus asked, tainting his tone with a little bit of conspiratorial suspicion, and Sister Leandra seemed to become flustered at that, a rosy tint painting her tan skin.
Uh-oh.
No, we already had the Hospitaller examine you, so naturally they took measurements for your replacement augmentations and...
She began to explain. Lazarus raised his hand to stall her, his face melting into a smile, his mouth and chin still...
Yeah. Oh my god. Stop it, you guys. Stop it. Saint of the Riz, Lazarus, all of you suck. Why? Oh. He flustered a sister of battle. Oh my god. Measurements for science, yes. Permission to ship them. You guys are simping way too hard right now. Flirting in the Imperium, of course, yes. Get it together, man. Okay, somebody asked a question. What are maglocks? Quite simply put, it's a magnetic lock. That's what it is. Simply put, that is exactly what it is. If you've ever seen a Space Marine, it looks like the gun isn't in a holster. It is simply on their thigh plate. That's because it is on their thigh plate with a maglock. Anyhow, moving on.
Easily visible. I accept this fine gift. Thank you, Leandra, he said with genuine appreciation, and her own expression laxed back into a slightly ruffled smile in return. The saint had expected the cold sensation to intensify as he placed the mask against his face, but contrary to his belief, it did not strengthen. In fact, though it did not exactly lessen, Lazarus did feel that the presence within the mask was somehow smoother now, less uncomfortable, though no less present. Leandra's smile became grimmer and more intense as she looked upon his new visage, and he could
Shut
see
up,
she was still
Alistar.
under no illusions as to what they were about to attempt. Deciding that it was better to get on with it before she changed her mind, he gave her a nod and turned around, facing towards the Inquisitor. Let's get started then. Lazarus said, and the huge man nodded, pushing off from the wall where he was leaning and reaching into his black coat, withdrawing a fat, black hand cannon. He opened the weapon up and loaded a specific round into the chamber, sealing it with a snap. With one arm, he aimed the gun up, angling it high over the gates of the ruined wall, while with the other, he reached back and covered the eyes of his nearby companion. The hand cannon barked an exceptionally loud blast from its muzzle as he fired the flare, and together, the assembled group watched as it burgeoned and began to glow, slowly descending from the sky like a luminescent crimson teardrop, sliding down the face of the encroaching dusk. All but Hecate, of course, who sighed behind Samael's hand, tapping her foot impatiently as she slid the sugary sucker around behind her cheek.
Okay.
Rex could see it. That huge red eye. Rex could feel it.
'Tis the eye of Sauron!
Feel it looking into him. Feel it looking into the world. And more than anything else, Captain Rex could feel its hunger. The hunger of a god. He felt his own mouth watering in response. Felt his blood boiling. Felt his teeth clenching. His fists tightening. His eyes burning.
Oh no.
Rex? The voice called him back. Almost.
Hope is the first step on the road to disappointment. Oh boy.
Made him gasp, shaking his head a bit as he reoriented. The lines of Ahsoka's face patterns helped his stinging eyes to focus, and he placed a hand against his helmet. Are you all right? She asked, concern clear in her voice as she bent over as if trying to look through his visor and at his eyes.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Rex said.
Feel pretty good about it there,
It's
Jenner.
just bright is all.
He added, gesturing up towards the red eye of God, which shimmered and gradually sank in the distance.
Oh no.
Ahsoka turned back towards it and grinned, nodding. Yeah, it is, she said, stepping past him and crossing her arms, standing triumphant as she stared at the distant light. I think that means I win our wager, she added with a smirk, looking over her shoulder at Rex.
Wager?
He asked, more than a little disoriented. Don't try to back out of it now, Rex, Ahsoka added with a laugh as she turned around. You were sure they would fight to the very end, whether they got my message or not. But that flare up there means I was right. The gamble with Farnus paid off, and now, the former Jedi said, trailing off as she did. Rex nodded, remembering. Ahsoka and he were outside of the makeshift Republic base on the edge of the roof, keeping watch for this very thing. The Eye of God. No, not an eye. A flare. Just a flare.
Rex is going through it right now. Rex is going through it, guys.
A sign from the Imperial remnants, indicating their desire to meet and treat. Why had he thought differently? Now the hard part starts, Ahsoka said with a sudden sigh.
Hard part?
Asked Rex, turning to more fully face her. Ahsoka nodded. Yup. Now that I've convinced the warmongering zealots to attempt negotiation, all that's left to do is convince the Jedi Master in charge here to do the same. She explained to him.
And that's the hard part?
Rex asked, prompting a cringe from Ahsoka. It is when you consider that we should be able to roll over them with sheer numbers at this point, if not just destroy them from orbit. They want to negotiate only because they have to, and we don't have to. Not at this point, she said, Rex nodding his head.
Still though,
The clone added.
it's not like we lose that advantage if we do choose to engage them with diplomacy. If they are unreasonable, then we can just go back to plan A.
He reasoned. Ahsoka only sighed again and shook her head.
T! T is for turtle!
Normally you'd be right,
She admitted.
but...
What's up? What's going on?
They've been tied together for 35 minutes. I can't get them to let go.
Oh boy. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry, give me 1 second. I gotta look something up. Oh, good lord. Well, what in the world? There we go. Okay. I don't know why I did that. I can just do this. Ha! There we go. Yeah, just part of doing what we have to do here. Hold on a second. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yep. Well, it's not my choices. So basically, one of the pugs is having an issue. And I just need to make sure what's going on. And I just need to make sure what's going on real quick. So, gotta go report this. Okay, 1 second. Alright, I'll be back in a second, guys. Okay. Don't try to pull them apart. Don't try to pull them apart. It says this could last up to 45 minutes. Are they almost out?
No. So then no change.
Okay.
Can you call my phone for me?
Yeah.
No, it's that way. Stop it, Cassie. Stop it, Dad. You gotta stand up, baby.
You gonna be okay?
Huh?
You gonna be okay with them?
I don't have any choice. I'm doing my best to kind of move them around when they move. Thank you, baby. Like I said, it was 35 minutes when I called you.
Okay, baby.
So I
know
don't-
what you want me to do.
I don't know, baby. All I know is I'm sitting on the floor stuck holding the feet of the pool stick off.
He's trying to pull his arm off.
They're tired of me stuck together, but he's got to release it. Usually it's quick with them.
Just take longer than normal.
That,
Baby, the thing says explicitly, do not try to force them apart.
I was just gonna put an ice pack on to see if the swelling goes down. Any. I don't care. Just grab the other. Connor, stop pulling away, buddy.
Connor? It's actually him, not her.
You just want to see over.
It does.
You don't want it.
Yeah.
She's friends. Yeah, it's lips it, doesn't it? Connor, stop moving.
Stop it, Connor. Stop it, Connor.
You're gonna hurt
Stop it,
your
Connor.
penis.
Stop it, Connor. You guys had to do this right now. You couldn't have waited 10 minutes.
Horny dogs.
I don't know what I'm supposed to do right now.
I got people in there waiting.
Yes, I got 150 people over.
You tell us what was going on. Alright. Just go. I'll figure it out.
Alright. Sorry, everybody. Sorry about this. So, one of the pugs was just having a little issue. We didn't know what was going to happen. So, I had to run back and forth there. It's fine. It's fine. Pugs is fine. We just needed to look up something real quick. And, yeah. It was a thing, guys. I just looked at him. I was like, you couldn't have waited for another 6-7 minutes, and then you could have been fine. But I've been running around. The pups are fine. The pups are absolutely fine. They're more than fine. Just have chat Exterminatus, Galaxy Wide, and Red Eye. Yeah, okay, that sounds like good. The pugs are fine. The pugs are fine. So, without getting too graphic into it, like I've told you guys, Volcana is in the middle of heat right now. Well, something happened, and I just needed to come back in here and check and make sure that everything's okay. Everything's okay. So, no. Everyone, X in chat to nuke Red Eye. So it's just a thing that happens when dogs are dogs. Let's go. Boop.
The former Jedi began to say, trailing off again.
But
The clone captain pressed. Ahsoka looked up at him,
Yeah.
biting her lip, but
Yeah, if you've ever had dogs before, you know what I'm talking about.
reaffirming her resolve as she answered.
But the Jedi Master in charge here is Mace Windu. And after what he did to Obi-Wan...
She started to say, only for Rex to raise his hand.
Right, the hard part.
He said with a nod.
I understand. Got a plan for how to get him on board.
Rex asked, Ahsoka shrugging in response.
Appeal to his mercy and Jedi tolerance?
She offered.
Yeah, you may want to come in with something more than that.
The clone offered back. Ahsoka shook her head and began to walk back towards the door that led
Doubt it.
inside.
Well, if you think of anything on the way there, be sure to let me know.
She said as she did. Rex nodded, but did not make to follow.
I'll catch up in a bit. Just gotta wipe down my visor.
He said, Ahsoka nodding reactively and continuing on. Captain Rex groaned softly when she left his sight, placing a hand
Blue Lick, Windu messed Obi-Wan up.
against his head. His skull was pounding, and his eyes stung something fierce. He reached up and removed his helmet, breathing in the fresh air and wiping his eyes. And when the clone captain pulled his hand away, he was oddly unperturbed by the red stains which glistened from the end of his armored.
The outro's most heretical thing ever. Nice.
God is coming.
Whispered his vilest instincts. Instincts he had trained well in the war he had been born to fight.
God is here.
Oh boy.
Look at how they crawl around upon the ground like little ants.
Yes, but how they fascinate, confusing fate with what is merely chance.
Isn't it a laugh?
Isn't it a shame?
Thinking there is someone in heaven to blame.
Yes, but even while blaming fate for the lives that they lead, they hope for the lives that they need.
Living every day till the day they die, never getting answers.
Yet still asking why, going through the motions as if there will be
Oh boy.
While we stay eternally bored, they're only human. They don't see who they are is who they'll always be. Only human after all. So they push and they shove
with this thing they call love
till they fall. Isn't it a farce?
Isn't it a waste?
Struggling to face what can never be faced.
Yes, but maybe death can release something more than we share.
I really don't know and don't care. They're only human, standing still, doomed to live, pushing boulders uphill. Only human after all. So they give and they take,
hoping someone will help break their fall.
Yeah.
they will pray, curse, live, die, never knowing that truth is another man's lie.
Oh boy.
Eat, sleep, love, hate, like a leaf blowing in the wind.
Watch them all vacillate. They're only human. They can't see all the years they can give you and me. Only human after all.
So they give and we take.
Till their silly hearts break.
Looking down from above, I'm intrigued by their love.
So let's call. Let's call.
It is.
Let's begin. I'm gonna make you wish that I'd stay this race is run. Oh, this will be fun.
Oh, God. So, if there's anyone keeping track right now, it is not going to be the Imperium that shoots at this. Thank you, Prophet. That's the Hasman Hotel second song. Nice. It's not going to be the Imperium that shoots first. It's going to be like... Normally, I'd be sitting there saying, yeah, the Republic needs to get them to the negotiating table instantly, but look at who you got leading right now. You got a Jedi Master who has sufficiently lost his mind. You have a Chaos-possessed... No, he's not possessed yet. A Chaos-influenced clone trooper. And you have someone that has no idea what they're getting themselves into. Oh my God. Did chaos spread in this universe? Yep. It definitely did. Because somebody decided to unleash a vortex grenade. And the belief of the Imperium itself is what's going to cause it. The belief of the Imperium itself is what's going to create it. And then that's going to have a cascade effect. Things are about to get really, really spicy. More so than normal. They're good?
We're good.
They're good. Okay. Okay. They just
It
didn't...
took an hour and 5 minutes.
It's not her, it's him. It's not her, it's him.
I was like, damn.
Yeah. Say hey to everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. 1 second, guys. I'm going to mute my microphone real quick. Alright, so they're both fine now. Both the pugs are fine. They just needed to chill out a little bit. Okay. So here's the thing about Chaos. If anybody's wondering what's going on right now, what's happening with the Stormtrooper, why is he calling it a new god, everything like that, he's not talking about Torweiler. He's not talking about the demon, I don't think. I really, really, really don't think, okay? So, basically what's happening is the four chaos gods in the 40K universe are the four chaos gods because that is the most energy that has been put out. Okay? Khorne, Slanesh, Tzeentch, Nurgle. There are four aspects of the four things that are currently driving the universe. Now, is Khorne, Slanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle going to exist in the Star Wars galaxy? No. They will not exist in the Star Wars galaxy. They're just not going to be there, okay? Khorne, Slanesh, Tzeentch, and Nurgle, they formed in the 40K galaxy, okay? They formed there. Now, in the Star Wars galaxy, okay, in Star Wars itself, the aspect of the Force itself, has been not very well understood, but everybody could see the actual physical avatars of that being the Sith, being the Jedi, being the Grey Jedi. They could see those, okay? They could see them. Now, with them seeing them, oh yeah, it's like it's pretty much the same as it is for any kind of situation that you would encounter in normal life. So the metaphysical element of Star Wars, is basically quantifiable to the people in the galaxy. They talk about the Force. They know about midichlorians. They know about the other aspects of the Force because they broke it down all scientifically. And they also know, even if they don't know that, they know about the Jedi. And the Jedi are supposed to be really, really powerful. The Jedi are supposed to be good guys. Nobody really knows about the Sith. In 40K, they really don't get into it at all. They hide that knowledge from the general population because the second they find out anything about it, everything goes to hell. And that's because, quite simply put, somebody actually saw what the warp was actually all about and went off and told everybody. Exactly. Not only, exactly, Ronnie, not just because of their beliefs, but because of other people's belief in them. So, the warp in 40K behaves as the warp is supposed to behave according to the way that people believe it behaves. Okay? There's also Force demons and the Celestials in Star Wars, like Wudzek. These being minor Force gods, depending on what lore fan is using. That's true galaxy-wide. That's true. But, can we get Giant Grant Games? Could the Zerg defeat the Galactic Empire? It's an interesting video. Just send me a message in Discord, dude, with it. I'll check it out. So, the 4 Chaos Gods of 40K did not manifest overnight. In a way, they always existed. In a way, they never have existed. Okay? So, think about it like that. For the Chaos Gods, they are timeless. They never have been, but they always have been. So, we always say Slaanesh was born at the end of the fall of the Eldar Empire, when the birth of Slaanesh opened up the Eye of Terra, devoured the Eldar Empire. Now, from the time that Slaanesh was born, she had always existed and had never existed at the same time. Will the Force itself fight that chaos? No, Brad, it will not, because when 40K wound up coming into this area. When people from 40K entered the Star Wars galaxy, they brought with them their strong-held beliefs. And these are people that just finished fighting on Cadia, okay? They just finished fighting on Cadia. They have seen demons. They know what Khorne is. They know what Nurgle is. They know what Slaanesh is. They know what Tzeentch is. They know what all 4 of these things is. If not by name, if by sight. They've seen them. They understand them. So they're bringing their beliefs in. And everything of their metaphysical still works here. The difference is the warp here is absolutely placid. Are there beings like the 4 in Star Wars? Maybe. Warhammer Fantasy and Constant War with our Chaos Gods. Tony, that's a way to interpret it. But let me put it to you like this, okay? The Chaos Gods are not sentient presences. They are concepts. Okay? That's what you got to remember, okay? Slaanesh is not sentient. Slaanesh is a parasite that... What's a good way to say it? The gods of 40K are they're about as sentient as a virus, to be quite honest with you. Intelligent, yes. Sentient, no. Massively powerful, though. They have learned how to hunt and gather more food. And as they continue to have continued to do that, they have amassed power at more and more and more power. Chaos Gods are like the Scarlet King in SCP. This is true. Yes, exactly, Matthew. They're like animals. They are like animals. Rat-Eye, you can actually talk to the Chaos Gods and they can intelligently respond. They can intelligently respond. But Slaanesh has no ability. Let me put it to you like this, okay? Imagine that I'm the god of drinking monster, okay? I'm the god of drinking monster, okay? That is what I do. I am all about. That's all I do. I am the god of monster. I am the god of monster energy drinks, okay? Now, as the way we normally envision gods and goddesses and things like that, I would be sitting back in a chair, leisurely drinking my replenishing monster can and just having a good time, talking to you guys, all this other kind of stuff, right? So that's what I would be doing if I was a god in the traditional sense. I drink my magical monster and I wave my hand and give monster to everybody. More monster for everybody. 40k equivalent god. I started off by sipping out of one can. And as I started to get more powerful from feeding off of this can, I started looking for ways to get more cans. Basically, your normal god sits in a throne like Zeus, drinking his monster can. 40k god, the 40k version of that same monster god that was sitting back and, lavishly pouring monster out all over all of his followers, is the meth/crackhead that hits you over the head with a lead pipe and steals your wallet to go get more monster. That's what the 40k gods are like. They are voracious parasites who have no self-control at all. They have no ability they have no concept of self-preservation. They have no concept of restraint. All they care about is the food. All they care about is what makes them go. So that is why Slaanesh will gladly... Well, I'm not going to use an example for Slaanesh. That is why Khorne's followers will gladly, as soon as they stop having people to fight, turn on each other. They will turn on each other and slaughter each other. And the reason they're doing that is because Khorne does not care where the blood comes from. He doesn't care where the blood flows from as long as it flows. So Khorne would literally, if Khorne took over the galaxy tomorrow, if every single sentient entity in the galaxy fell to Khorne in 40k tomorrow, and they all went after each other, they would they would literally kill each other until there was only one person left who would then remove themselves in a gory way. Khorne has a galaxy of slaughter, and he just ended himself because there's no one else left to feed him. But he was getting fed. They are leeches. They are parasites. Even a mosquito has the sense of self-preservation to avoid a slap. The Chaos Gods do not have this. The Chaos Gods just simply do not have this. Yes, that's a good summation. They only have intelligence based on their nature. So, using the aforementioned God of Monster, I will figure out how to get more of this. My entire will is bent to attaining this. All I can do is this. I am capable of nothing else. I can't try something else. I can't suddenly decide, hey, this isn't good for me, I need to set it down and go do something else. I will attain this until it kills me from the attaining of it. That is the Gods of Chaos in 40k. Yes, galaxy-wide, you're exactly correct. If Chaos had won during the heresy, Chaos would have collapsed on itself and destroyed itself in the process. It is... Now, the reason this is such a dangerous concept for the Star Wars galaxy is because you have this type of same energy existing in Star Wars. The difference between the two elements is the people in Star Wars have always had something to sit there and say, oh, they're empowered by the Force. They're the avatars of the Force. The Force does this, the Force does that. So they hear that and they're like, okay, the Force makes these Jedi powerful. That's the extent of most people's knowledge of the Force. The Jedi are powerful, they're empowered by the Force, that's what happens. If they know about what the Force is at all. If they know about what it is at all. Because remember, the surface of this place is placid. The warp in and of itself in this place is placid. Then you have the Imperium coming in after they just finished fighting in the 13th Black Crusade. Bringing all their beliefs, their fears, their knowledge of chaos, everything like that, and they just brought it into this place here. Exactly, Red Eye. Exactly. So they brought all of that here. Not only that, because of the nature of technology in this Star Wars galaxy, they don't have, their ships don't literally tear holes in reality to go to another spot. They go into hyperspace. But a lot of this is going back to when Lazarus hadn't been made into a saint yet. When he threw a vortex grenade in front of some clones, who then actually got to see what was beyond the veil, what was there, what had been there all along. And the bad thing about knowing about chaos is you either want one or two things when it comes to chaos. You want the person to have a steel trap mind, Inquisitor level, Space Marine, of course, something like that. You want them to be rock solid, or you want them to not know a damn thing. You want them to not know anything. What is that weird creature over there? The one that the pink, the big bird looking thing with two heads? That's a Xenos. You don't want to tell them what that actually fucking is. They will, yes, essentially Red-Eye, that's what they're going to do. Now, it's going to depend on everything. We might get some things that look very familiar to the 40K Gods of Chaos. Now, considering what's been going on, considering the absolute hellhole this place has been just simply bathed in gore. Like, this place has been destroyed, okay? Khorne would be, unsurprisingly, the one that I would think that, shows up if they do transition over. Oh my god. Yeah, Abaloth. Oh yeah, I know. So really what it comes down to, it could create a couple of Chaos Gods. Now in 40K, now here's the thing about Star Wars right now, okay? Here's the thing about Star Wars right now. Tzeentch wouldn't be Tzeentch. Okay, so I'm gonna refer to them as a Tzeentchian god would not be in a sentence because Star Wars has changed very little, very, very, very little over the last 10,000-ish years. Okay, there's been a couple of changes, but not that much. Nurgle would be so absolutely weakened by everything that's going. Nurgle would practically be non-existent here. Would practically be non-existent. Slaanesh? Maybe? But after the events of this stuff, Khorne, definitely. Khorne would be the absolute front runner. Absolute front runner. Nurgle wouldn't be here right now. Nurgle Nurgle would be so depowered in this in the Star Wars galaxy. Nurgle would be so depowered it wouldn't even be funny. How it would affect planets that are connected to the living force? They turn. Maybe Slaanesh. But yeah, Blue Lake, not that powerful. Not nearly as powerful. Corn would be the power in the water at this point. Any case, Warpugs, I'm gonna head out from here. Yeah, drugs problem. Star Wars does have a problem with drugs. Yep. The ones who were responsible for maintaining the balance just kicked the bucket, and that one ship going to Abelos prison, potentially waking her up. That could be extremely bad. Warpugs, I'm heading out. I hope you had a good time. Sorry about the interruptions again. Yes, we still have a gene stealer. What if Kaon told them about the gods? If Kaon told them about the gods, then most definitely they would form. Because the one thing that is more powerful than just sensation, just emotion, is belief. Is just belief. Okay? Belief feeds the warp like nothing else. Warpugs, I'll catch you next time.